to Manchester City. This is said to be a record fee for a British goalkeeper, Mark.
Yeah, well, obviously he was at City until a couple of years ago, went to Burnley, and Newcastle made an offer, £27 million last week, but part of the deal that took Trafford to Burnley was that City would have a matching clause, so they were able to match Newcastle's bid and leave it up to Trafford, and Trafford has decided to go back to City. That will mean Stefan Ortega will probably leave. They'll keep Ederson, whose contract expires next year. But I've been told that City really think that James Trafford can push Ederson to become the number one. They think he can become a future England goalkeeper, you know, push Jordan Pickford for that spot. So it's an interesting move because, you know, I think Trafford is a very promising keeper, but he's nowhere near the finished article yet. Ederson has done it, improved it. He's had a bit of a wobble last couple of seasons. But the two of them are both vying for the number one spot. So I think Ederson will win it this season, but Trafford is clearly the long-term option at City now.
Meanwhile, Rob, while we're talking about Manchester City, word is that Nottingham Forest have made a move for James McAtee.
Yeah, I mean, he's a player that will probably leave City this summer. There's been an awful lot of interest in James McAtee from Premier League clubs, Forest being one of those, and also the Bundesliga. I think it's probably time for him to move on. He's had loan spells with Sheffield United. He's come back to City. He didn't play for City as much as he would have hoped last season. I think at his age there, 22, he feels that he really needs to play regular first-team football in the Premier League. We fully expect that McAtee will leave. He's obviously had a fantastic summer with England's under-21s, winning the Euros. And I think him and his representative just feel like it's, even though he's kind of come through City's academy, it's just time to move on and play more regularly.
We just heard Rob there mention Cole Palmer. Could there be a situation where Man City regret letting him go, if that's to happen?
Well, yes, that's always in play. When you have young players that you think, okay, I don't know, is he going to get the minutes? We brought in other new players that we think they're going to be the ones that are going to get the brunt of the minutes. And somebody's got to go. Somebody's got to make space. And yes, in this case, the first name that came to my mind when we were about to talk about this subject and McAtee is, well, Cole Palmer. And that has to be fresh. That has to be fresh in Pep Guardiola's mind. It has to be fresh in Manchester City's mind, that we let this guy walk out the door and look at what he has become. Could he have become that in our club? Well, that's an answer that we'll never actually be able to find, because Manchester City decided to move from Cole Palmer. Are they going to be doing or making the same mistake with James McAtee? And is James McAtee that sort of player, and does he have that sort of potential? That also is a different question. I understand the perspective of the player in this case, that, yeah, if he didn't get enough minutes last season, when everything was falling apart for Manchester City, I don't see how he gets the minutes that he wants in a season in which it feels like Manchester City are going to be back to close to their best or near their best.
Yes, let's continue the conversation with Manchester City. Jack Grealish has returned to training. Doesn't appear to be in the plans for next season, though. How is moving him on going, Rob?
Well, slowly is the honest answer, because, you know, everyone will know again that he was left out of the squad for the Club World Cup in June. The idea was that he would kind of go away, his representatives would go and kind of generate some interest in him, and the hope was that he would kind of be moved on before pre-season training. Obviously that not happened. He's back with the City squad. He was back training with them on Monday. City have taken a different approach with Jack Grealish than say United have with the likes of Garnacho. You know, United have very, very clearly said that Garnacho is not part of the plans. He's been left at home. He's not on the pre-season tour. That's not the approach that City have taken with Grealish. They've welcomed him back into the group. And when we spoke to Pep Guardiola at the Club World Cup, we asked about Jack Grealish, and he did leave the door open. He said that, you know, Jack probably needs to play regularly. He wasn't getting that at City. We think that the best thing for him right now is to move on. But if that doesn't happen, they're more than welcome. They're happy to welcome him back. And there will be an onus on Jack Grealish to use his pre-season schedule now to maybe work his way back into Pep Guardiola's plans. That's not the impression that we get from City. City still expect him to leave. They think that, you know, perhaps clubs the likes of West Ham, Everton, will come in with loan offers towards the end of the window, kind of wait it out and see what's going to happen, and maybe make late moves. But while Jack Grealish is a City player, there is always that prospect that he could be welcomed back to and work his way into Pep Guardiola's plans. There hasn't been any kind of breakdown in the relationship between Jack and Pep. And while he's still at the club, there is always that option that he could kind of rejuvenate his career at City.
Could you see him rejuvenating his career and getting back to the player that he was?
I'll tell you how you rejuvenate your career. You're more productive. Those numbers we just show there for Jack Grealish, and I know, and I've heard this whole thing about Jack Grealish, how good he is in the group and the locker and this and that. Okay, that's great, but productivity. And those numbers tell you a whole lot about Jack Grealish and how he has come up short and what the expectations were when he came to Manchester City. And again, I'll go back to the same reasoning I just had about James McAtee. Last season was awful for Manchester City. Awful. They were looking for answers, searching for answers everywhere. And as they were trying to find answers everywhere on the field, Jack Grealish didn't seem to be a viable option for Pep Guardiola, consistently so. That sends a really strong message to the player. And so while I understand that if he's hanging around, if he's still here, yeah, there's potential that maybe he has a renaissance, a rebirth, or somehow he finds it. He may find it. I just don't think that he's finding it at Manchester City.
What do you think the future looks like for Grealish yourself, Mark?
Well, Everton are an interesting one. I think David Moyes has said over the weekend that he thinks they need 10 more players, and Grealish is a player that they really like, but I think Everton have got a bit of business to do before they kind of get the cherry on the cake with Grealish. But I think the situation with Grealish is he's a player that will just want to play, and a lot of players will sit around and demand that they get paid their full money and decide they're not going anywhere until they get their payout. I think Grealish is different in many ways. I think he just wants to play. He's had 2 really difficult years since City won the treble, missed out on going to the Euros with England last year. I think obviously right now he's got a real outside chance of getting to the World Cup with England next year. But if he gets the right move, Everton maybe, a West Ham, maybe Newcastle, these clubs that have been linked with him, I think he could just about get back in the squad, but he has to play, and he knows that. And City brought in Shirker, they've had Marmoush in the January window, they've got Phil Foden that's going to come back this season. It's going to be really hard for him to play at City. I think he knows he has to leave, and I think he'll get a move. He'll get a move because he wants to move, he wants to play, and that will make it a lot easier. But Rob's right, it will take a while. I think it'll be last week of the window when clubs are looking at what they've got and thinking, right, now's the time to make a move, and that's when it'll probably happen.
Okay, well, let's let Rob Dawson make like Bruno Fernandes and go and enjoy the delights of Chicago.
Well, he's going to enjoy the carnival ride he's got in the background there.
Yep, maybe that is what we always think of Manchester United's season.